Awesome. Welcome. I was just telling one of my colleagues, never in my life could I have imagined a packed room when I submitted this session. So thank you for attending. And thank you to anybody who's attending virtually. My name is Derrick. I'm a field sales engineer at Jamf. I'm from Pennsylvania, so I'm from the Allentown, Pennsylvania area. And I've been supporting anything with the Apple logo on it for the last 15 years, previously working in higher education and healthcare. In my role at Jamf, I help existing customers as well as prospective customers pick the right solutions to make sure that they have a great Apple environment. So pretty passionate about what I do. I'd love to talk about new features, and this is one of our most popular new features in Jamf Pro, which is the App Catalog and App Installers. So just want to gauge the audience. How many people in the room are using Jamf today? Wow. Awesome. How many people are leveraging app installers? How many people heard of them? Thinking about using them? Yeah, so we got some interest. So app installers came out about a year and a half ago, became in beta, and it's something that people have been requesting for a very long time. When I was a customer, when I used to come here, I used to always walk up to the Jamf booth and be like, hey, when are you gonna fix patch management? And they'd be like, well, we'll take that back with us. Needless to say, we made an acquisition maybe 3 years ago. Kenobi was a tool that's now kind of integrated into all of this. So what we did was we strategically made that acquisition to help improve Jamf, to make all your lives easier, because I don't think there's anybody in this room who loves packaging. And if you do love packaging, well, I'm sure we could find something else for you to do. So what are we going to talk about today? So we're going to talk a little bit about what we're doing today for patch management, how that works, and then how app installers and the app catalog can help us enhance that experience, take away some of those common tasks that we're doing. We're also going to go through a demo of what it looks like to go ahead and deploy an app through the app catalog. We're also going to talk about some of the little nuances and some new features that just became available a couple weeks ago. Finally, I want to wrap it up and have a discussion amongst everybody in the room, because when we talk, we get ideas going. This is being recorded. It's going to be on YouTube. I could bring that information back to Jamf. We could help to make stuff better for y'all. So we'll be using the catch box. So if anybody has any questions, we'll just toss that around the room and go from there. Cool. So what is an app installer? Essentially, an app installer is a package that we're grabbing from the software vendor. So whether that be Microsoft, Google, Adobe, anybody who wants to have a partnership and allow their application to be distributed. And what that's going to do is that's going to remove those complex workflows that we have today, where we have to grab the package from the app vendor. Maybe we have to run it through a tool like Jamf Composer. Then we got to upload it to our Jamf Pro. It's a lot of work involved there, especially with applications like Chrome and Edge and Teams and Zoom, where we have new updates coming out every couple days. It's a lot of work. And then we have Infosec nagging us, hey, we want these apps to be patched. So it could be hard kind of balancing all that. So we initially started when we put app installers in beta. We started with, I believe it was like 9 applications. Fast forward to today, July 2023, happy to say we have 129 applications available, which is great, yeah. But we do get the question, hey, when are you going to bring the other 1,000 applications that are available for patch reporting into the app catalog? It's a question I get every single day. It's something that we're aware of. There's some nuances and complexities that go into making an application available. So number one, is that application able to be automated? Is there any special scripts or things that need to be ran after the fact? Also just some legal nuances. You know, does that app vendor want to have their application published in there? What if something goes wrong? So it's not just a matter of taking an application and making it available in there. We actually have a team at Jamf that anytime, you know, let's just say a new version of Adobe or a new version of Teams becomes available, we'll grab that package and we'll go to town to make it available within hours. So not days, hours of that patch becoming available, you guys are able to go ahead and deploy it through the app catalog. So we're giving you guys some time back in your day to focus on other stuff, but we also want to make sure that what we are deploying, that we could be confident at the end of the day that our users do have the most up-to-date apps to help allow them to be productive. So, you know, how are we doing it today? Well, you know, today it pretty much Adobe, Microsoft, whoever releases an update, you guys are taking that and you guys are packaging it up. Maybe you're using a tool like Composer, or maybe whatever package they're providing just works. But then you gotta put it in your dev environment, you gotta test it out, and then once we test it out, we go ahead and deploy it, and then our users are happy. But sometimes things don't always go in the right direction. Maybe the application closes. Maybe we have to wait until next reboot for it to actually be patched. So there's some neat features that we'll be going into in a little bit that can help you to provide a better end user experience. So that way if somebody is on a call, it's not just gonna go ahead and drop them off of their Zoom call. So we have Jamf's App Catalog, which right now is a list of over 1,000 third-party macOS software titles that are in Jamf Pro. This also includes the patch definition feed, title editor, and then the apps themselves. And then a separate kind of component of the app catalog is the app installers, which we're talking about here today. So how does it work? First thing we need to do is we need to figure out what we want that workflow for that application to be. So we'll choose the app installer. Our scope is going to be a little bit different than what we're doing today with policies. So policies, you have some more granularity where you could scope it to an Azure AD group or a specific computer. Scope with app installers leverages smart groups. So you need to create smart groups, whether that's a smart group identifying computer doesn't have Teams installed on it, or a smart group for recently enrolled or recently added computers. You need to have a smart group in order to deploy that app. There are some feature requests out there to have more granularity like we do today with policies. Please, I encourage you all, go to the Jamf Ideas portal and upvote them, because that's where we're able to do some work with that. But essentially what we have, it's an alternative to the policies that have been around, you know, for years within Jamf Pro, you know, back when it was Casper. We're not leveraging the Jamf agent. So app installers is leveraging MDM commands. So kind of the difference with that, with a policy, you could set, hey, every 15 minutes, my recurring check-in, I'm gonna have the computer go ahead and grab that policy. Since we're leveraging MDM commands, it could be quicker, could be longer, still kind of trying to work that out and make it something a little bit more stable. So that's, you know, some feedback that we've received is, hey, we wanna be able to deploy this and it happens right away without waiting a couple minutes. So I'm sure people are going to ask questions about that later, but just wanted to open it up that we are aware of that. We've gotten feedback from customers like yourselves, and it's something that is in our pipeline. So today, those 130 apps, those are some of the most prominent applications that are out there. Like I mentioned, 1Password, Teams, believe it or not, is not a Mac app for whatever reason. So it's considered a third-party app. Zoom, you name it, it's an app catalog. But what about an application that doesn't exist? How can we get it in there? That's where we have the Jamf Ideas portal. So I'll be sharing the URL in a little bit, but that's where we want you to submit those ideas for those applications. We also have a list. We have a document that does list right now the 129 applications that are available as of today. We do have release notes for every single application that gets added as well. So good document to follow. The biggest roadblocker is whether or not you're cloud hosted or if you're still on-prem. Anybody in here on-prem? Yeah, we got a bunch of hands. So totally get it. Everybody has some kind of cloud first initiative in place. I talk to people every day. Unfortunately, due to the distribution services, this is something that does require cloud. There is no intent to make app installers available for on-prem customers. And again, it's just really comes down to the infrastructure behind how everything works. So we have a team at Jamf that when there is a new piece of software that becomes available, a new patch, how does that happen? How do you guys get your computers up to date? So we get notified by the software vendor that there's an update available. And then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and take a look at the package. If the package is good to go, it could just be deployed as is. Then we'll go ahead and run it through Jamf Protect, make sure that there's no malware or anything attached to it. Then we go ahead and publish it for you. But if it's just not as easy as a vanilla package, then what we have to do is we need to go ahead and repackage it using our own internal tools. We'll also go ahead and validate the security and digitally sign that for you as well. We test it out on a bunch of computers internally before we go ahead and give the okay and say, hey, we're going to go ahead and patch this for you. So just a little bit behind the scenes on how that all works. So we went over the requirements already, but what happens if we have a computer that we say we want to go ahead and install Chrome onto because it fell into the does not have Chrome smart group? Dave, what happens if a computer falls out of that smart group? Does it uninstall Chrome?
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. So once the app is on your Mac, it is not going to leave. So these are app installers, not app uninstallers. We have no intention of doing anything with uninstallation and automating that with this functionality. But that's probably one of the biggest questions that comes up is, hey, since we're using smart groups as the scope, what's going to happen if I deploy this application to recently enrolled computers? Once it falls out of that 7-day period, is it going to uninstall? And the answer is no. Another one that comes up, what happens if the user uninstalls the application that was pushed down to the computer by the admin, or maybe they went into self-service and they installed it via self-service? What's going to happen to that application? The good news is if somebody does uninstall that application, the next time a patch becomes available, if that application no longer exists on the computer, it'll go ahead and reinstall it. So if you guys have a browser of choice that you prefer to be on the computer, and for whatever reason, you have a bad actor who just wants to take that off the computer, you can be confident knowing that Chrome updates pretty much every day, so it'll get its way back on there. So kind of a self-healing policy. So let's see it in action. Let's go into Jamf Pro and actually set up a piece of software to be installed on our Mac. So I got my Jamf Pro dashboard here. So what we're going to go ahead and do over on the left-hand side, we're going to navigate to computers. And you'll notice under our inventory here, things are starting to get rebranded. So before we used to have App Store apps, and now we just have Mac apps. And this is pretty cool because when I'm talking to somebody who never used Jamf before, they know, oh, okay, Mac apps. This is where I'm going to go to deploy my apps. So if I come in here and I select new, I have two options now. So I have the Mac App Store. So any Mac App Store application, I could go ahead and deploy just as I used to be able to. But now I have this new option for the Jamf App Catalog. So I'm going to go ahead and select Jamf App Catalog. And it does let the user know that this is relying on Jamf for the updates. When you come in here for the first time, you will be prompted just like you are with patch reporting. I didn't feel like nuking my instance, so sorry if you didn't want to read all the wording, but you are prompted with a little notice letting you know that we're not responsible if anything bad happens. Feel free to call support, though. Taking a look here, right here, when we're in the app catalog, we got a lot of Adobe stuff in here. Everything's in alphabetical order. You can sort things, you could filter things out. There's a really nice search feature up here. So if I just come in here and type in Teams, I got Microsoft Teams popping up. So if I don't want to go through the whole catalog, I'm more than welcome to just go ahead and search for an application and see if it's available. So let's say that we do want to go ahead and deploy Teams. I'm just going to go ahead and select Add. And now it's going to go ahead and create an app entry for this application. So a couple things to make note of. So we have a display name. So one of the new features that we just added is the ability for you to make an app installer available in your self-service portal. Previously, they would only install automatically, but now we have that option down here under our distribution method to have it install in self-service or to have it install automatically. Now, just like your App Store applications, it always does default to self-service, so just something to make note of. You could also add a site if you're using sites. You could add a category. And then you have your target group. I've had a couple people request for this to be changed to scope because they're so used to scope, but that's exactly what target group is. So this is where you could come in and you'll see all of your smart groups. What I like about this, if you're someone like me who has hundreds of smart groups, I don't want to have to scroll through. So I could actually come in here and go ahead and search for a specific smart group. So that's pretty nice. Down here, this is where Infosec and other people, this is what makes them happy. So this is where we could see the information that's coming from the app vendor. So this is what's telling us, hey, this is a legit version of Teams. We could see what version it is, when that package was published, what architecture it's supposed to run on. I'd say probably at this point, 99% of the applications that we do have in the app catalog are universal. So we're not worrying about Intel versus Apple Silicon. You can also see the package hash, what size it is. and some other things. We also support config profiles. So if there's a config profile that needs to be attached to the package, you have that ability to go ahead and add that. And then we have some other new things up here that started to show up. So with the introduction of self-service, we can now add a description. So I'm going to put Teams is used for communication. This is our preferred conferencing solution. And we can make it that, just like any other self-service app, we can make it that they have to go ahead and view that. Yeah, we got a question.
Yeah, it's about the description thing. You can probably just repeat it.
Sure.
On the Mac App Store side, there's a pre-built description that comes from the Mac App Store side. Is there like a feature coming to like pre-bake some of those for this part, so you're not retyping what could already be pre-populated?
Yeah, so for anybody,
Repeat the question first.
yep. So for anybody listening online or anybody who couldn't hear, the question was, today for App Store applications, there's a default description that's coming from the App Store. Is there a way that in this description field here, instead of us having to manually type that description, that we could just have it import a description? Not today. That is a good feature request. I'll go ahead and submit that for you. Cool. You'll see the icon that's displayed here. You could also feature the application in the featured category if you need, and then obviously you could go ahead and throw it into any categories that you want it to be displayed in, just like a policy today that we're making available in self-service. And then we also got another new tab here now, which is the End User Experience tab. So this is where we could set stuff up to make our users happy so that the application doesn't force quit on them when they're in the middle of a Zoom meeting. This is where we could also go ahead and specify the notifications that are being deployed. So if a new version of Teams becomes available, I could go ahead and bug this person every hour if I want. You could also set a custom notification message. So if there's some kind of 0-day event, anything like that, this is a real priority, and you want the users to view that notification, they could also get notified here with that custom message. My favorite one is the deferral limits. So we always, back when I worked in higher ed, I had professors who would just stick the middle finger up to IT. So, being able to put a deferral on here is great. We got a couple options here. You could do it in hours, days, weeks, which is pretty cool because then the user will get a notification saying, hey, there's an update available for Teams. Go ahead and run that update by July 31st. We have a really nice Jamf admin at Jamf. Emily, if you haven't met her, she's down at the Mac Admins Foundation, but she does some really cool creative stuff with some of the messaging with emojis, and just makes it look really nice and professional. And then you could also put in like grace periods for force quitting. And then also my other favorite one down here at the bottom, you could automatically open the app up after the update. So if it's something like Slack or Teams that they're probably going to automatically open up anyways, let's just do them a solid. And then you'll see this button over here. For some reason, people like to deselect this, I guess you would call. So they like to just come over here and do that. So they're building this out, not in their test environment. For some reason, they're building out in their prod environment. I want to do that. I would test it out first. But what they're doing as a best practice, which I totally get, is they'll go ahead and gray that out. But then they go ahead and hit save, and they're like, hey, it's been a week. How come Teams isn't deployed on my computer? So you want to make sure that you go ahead and select the deploy button here. Now, this is great if you do have a piece of software that maybe we're replacing something with, and we just want to keep this around for historical purposes, but eventually we're going to sunset an application. That's why we might go ahead and turn that off, essentially. Cool. So Teams is going to go ahead and deploy down to my computers. Up until a couple weeks ago, that was it. Like, you had to create a smart group. You had to look at the inventory information to see whether an app installed, and that was it. And we added this really nice feature here now for a deployment status. So now you can see here, we have 3 qualified computers, which is great because we're actually looking at the information that the software vendor is providing us. So if an application only supports macOS Ventura or higher, it's going to look at that and it's going to qualify that computer to go ahead and install that application. So you'll see here, since I set this to make it available in self-service, I have those 3 qualified computers here. Now, if I go and select another application, and I'm just going to go ahead and choose Google Chrome, I have this set to install automatically instead of self-service. So you'll see here right now, it's in progress on 3 computers. So once that would successfully report back that it was installed via MDM, it would show as being completed, and then we would be able to see the statuses over here. And if for some reason Dave would reach out to me and say, hey Adam, how comes I don't have Adobe on my computer? And I could come in here and go, oh, well, your computer's not qualified. You're running macOS Sierra. That's a whole nother discussion. But as you can see here, we're growing the app installers. So we're adding more functionality to it with every version of Jamf Pro. For those of you who are cloud hosted, you'll start to notice that our update cycles are now generally every 4 weeks. We're not doing 6, 8, 10-week update cycles anymore. There's new versions of Jamf Pro coming out every 4 weeks. So we're gonna be at 1050 soon, which is amazing. So I guess one thing that I really would like to convey to everybody, if there's something that App Installers is not doing today that you're looking for it to do, please go to ideas.jamf.com, which is our feature request portal. Go ahead and add a feature request in there. If it matches up with somebody else's, great, we'll merge them together. But the more feedback that we could get from all of you on how you are using app installers, what you like about it, what you don't like about it, that's gonna help to drive our product roadmap for this. And ultimately, grow the fleet and the amount of applications that we have in there. Cool. I did wanna open up for any discussion. First, I would love if anybody's using app installers today to talk a little bit about how you're using app installers, what benefits you got from it, and what you're looking to do with it in the future. So is there anybody who'd like to share their story? Dave?
Hi, this is working, right? Yeah, full disclosure, Adam is my SC, so I've known him for many, many years. I'm in app installers. I've been using Jamf since the days of Casper, and other than Jamf really getting out in front of mobile configuration profiles, this has been the best feature. I was never put on this earth to package. And every day that I package is time that I will never get back. And 70% of my software, 70% are now done in the app catalog. And well, I'll get to Adobe in a second, but the exception of Adobe, they auto update every 4 weeks. No more having to repackage. No more having to, so it's just been wonderful. We have asked this at Jamf. I've been in this conference for years, going up to the Jamf table saying, what are you doing with Kenobi? You bought it 4 years ago. What is happening? You have patch management there, right on the gray thing. What's going on? And it finally happened a year and a half ago. So again, it has cut my work down tremendously. Now, That's the great thing. That's the great thing. There are a couple things with it. Anybody here deploying Adobe Creative Cloud? Okay, I have a ticket that's deep into Jamf. Deep, like probably on Dean's desk by now.
Very deep.
And for 3 reasons. Number one, Adobe apps, surprise, don't auto-update. Who could have imagined, given Adobe's track record? They don't know, all right. The second thing, if they have a major release, you have to build another repository, 2022, 2023. The third thing is sometimes machines show up as unqualified. We don't know. Fourth thing is, and this is all in the, if you go into the Jamf App Installer Slack channel, you'll see all of this. And the fourth thing is sometimes people will uninstall, like Adam said, but the JSS will report it as installed, and hence you can't push it down again, even with a patch. So those are the things with Adobe. And I'm constantly keeping people updated in that Slack channel to see where we are, because it's going way up. So, but this feature is absolutely tremendous. It has cut my work more than half. I don't have to package 70%, but particularly all of the open source apps, particularly Docker and Postman and all of that, that those vendors are probably thrilled to be on an app installer. You know, Nudge is on here. Oh my God, tremendous. So the only other thing that I would ask is since it's a management command as opposed to a policy, is Jamf working on ways to have a granular, like have a log where it fails? Because right now it just basically says in progress or failed or that's it.
Yes, yes. So
Thank you, everyone.
thank you very much, Dave. Appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, like anything that we're deploying down onto our computers, it's great to have that information. You know, did something actually fail? One thing that I did want to mention is if you do have a computer, you could go into your computer's device record. And if we go to history and we go here to management history, so you'll be able to see here the history on a per computer level. So we don't have a nice pretty dashboard yet. For those of you who did upgrade to 1048, you might have noticed that we have some new dashboards that are available now for patch reporting. Things are starting to look a little bit different. You now have the ability to actually go ahead. Let me just get out of here real quick. But you do have the ability to come in here. You could hide stuff. Another thing that was highly requested was if we had a patch policy in place, so you were manually patching something with Jamf Pro. Now, both of those will actually show up next to one another. So like I have a patch report here for Mac OS, but let's say I have a patch policy, it'll show up right next to it. So that's another thing that just came from customers like you. So we are working on, we totally get it, you know, dashboards are, you know, our very quick glance into the health of our environment. So to that, today, we don't have anything in here like a chart or anything where we could go in, but you can certainly, like if you know you're working with a user, you're supporting them, you know that user did not get the application, you can absolutely go into the device record itself, into the history, and see the management history to see if the command did execute, did it fail. As far as granular logs go, I mean, it would be lovely to have that. You know, anytime somebody does come up and say, hey, this policy failed, it is really nice to have that granularity. I think that's just something that with this being MDM versus the Jamf agent, it's the Jamf agent, we could kind of do what we need to do. With it being MDM, we're kind of limited with what we can do and what we could take advantage of. But I think with some of the new DDM stuff, with Apple's fall release, some of this might change for the better. So at least I'm hoping. Cool. Anybody else got a story they'd like to share? There you go.
perhaps it's not more of a story, but you had indicated you could add a config profile to the Mac app installer.
Yes.
Can you show where that might transpire?
Oh, to show you where to do it? Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So we're gonna go into Mac apps, Teams. I'm just gonna use this as an example. So you'll see here, we have the option to install supporting the config profiles for it. So if there is a specific config profile that is supposed to be delivered with this, we would need to come in and select that box. And then obviously make sure that that config profile is in scope, preferably to the same smart group.
Okay. The second part of that would be license software. Apps that appear in this Mac App Store that have licensed software, maybe only have 10 associated with it. Can you do that within here, or does it need to be separated?
Yeah, so what we're looking at with app installers, we're not managing any kind of licensing with app installers. That's something that I don't believe we're going to be in the business of managing licenses. So unlike Mac App Store applications where you do have the ability to go ahead and divvy up those licenses, I would probably suggest, and again, this kind of goes to the whole, hey, maybe we could scope with Azure AD groups. You could have a group for Adobe Creative Suite and you scope it to that particular group. So that's where I'm hoping to see some added functionality. When it comes to scope, today you would probably have to make a smart group with some type of criteria for that specific application that's going to be licensed. That would be what I would recommend you do.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Cool. Sure. Can you pass the box right behind you?
So I noticed that we have several of the Adobe apps available in there, but not Creative Cloud. Is there any reason we would need Creative Cloud if we can already install the apps?
Good question. I'm not using Adobe myself.
Lucky you.
Yeah, we got somebody in the back there who might have an answer. Also, Dave will probably have an answer.
All right, who am I throwing this at?
It very similar, I'd say very similar to Microsoft Office, You could go ahead and deploy Microsoft Office, or you could just deploy the individual apps. But I'm curious to see what you have to say.
Yeah, bulk is one reason. Also, currently, the Adobe Creative Cloud Packager is one of the very last things out there producing non-flat packages, which in turn aren't eligible for distribution through management commands, which is what app installers are using.
Gotcha. Thank you for sharing the knowledge. Uh-oh.
And a second part of that, the first thing I was going to say, yeah, the flat packages, that you can't use management commands. The second thing is, in my situation, Creative Cloud is banned. It is blocked. We can't, because Adobe does not segregate their licenses with their data stores. And so we are not allowed as a company to put any PHI or anything like that on a cloud store that they are not, that is not blessed by our company. So we can't use Creative Cloud. Now, when you install one of these, the Creative Cloud app comes down anyway, because that's just what Adobe does. So it does get to Creative Cloud. In my case, people will try to use it, and it's blocked. So if that answers your question.
Awesome, thanks. I'm curious, anybody in the room, do you see any discussions with Infosec regarding using app installers versus packaging things up manually today, like you're doing? Okay. That's good. Cool. Yeah, we got a couple questions we'll pass around.
My question, so we were previously Kenobi customers before Jamf acquired them. And it really seemed like maybe the product offering was going to be a perfect fit to go kind of into the patch management component within the platform. But when it was released, there's kind of a new section, right? My question is, for the future of the patch management feature set, is the intention that that is actively, developed in kind of in line with like the new Mac or Jamf apps? Do they maybe merge at some point, or do they offer something unique? Each tool is kind of something separate, and they offer a unique purpose.
Yeah, so when we did acquire Kenobi, the legacy Kenobi customers were allowed to keep utilizing Kenobi up until their next renewal. And then we stopped accepting new Kenobi customers. The focus absolutely has been on going away from, manually patching the applications to automating it. Obviously, I think the biggest gripe amongst any Mac admin is probably patching. So I'd say, I can't, with us being a public company, I can't publicly disclose our roadmap, but I would say if you look at some of our previous acquisitions and the products that they've become, Jamf Connect from Nomad, Jamf Protect, we've kind of gone down that route. So with some of the new improvements also to patch reporting, before we went from like 300 or 400 titles, and then with the acquisition now we have over 1,000. So I think at some point we're gonna wanna marry that together. Something that obviously takes time. We gotta vet those software titles and make sure that they're compatible with this automation, as well as is this something that the Adobes and the Microsofts of the world want us to be doing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We got one, 3 rows back.
So I know you said that you guys are working on evolving, we'll say, scoping. As part of that, is there any conversations about maybe introducing new feature sets or altering existing feature sets to be more palatable to ringing structure, especially as this is like automated updating, that we could have custom scoping with, say, custom amount of delay, like we do with some other management products?
So like when you're saying custom delay, are you talking about like deferment?
Right, so let's say I have 3 collections and I have a business critical app that's in the Jamf
Sure.
Apps catalog. Like I have not the CIO's admin assistant, oh God, it's the CIO. And I want obviously those to go in a very specific order, but not have to manually come in and alter scope to make sure these things are rolling in a perceived habit. Like I want, 2 days, 5 days, 10 days, and just to like let it leave. Is there any plans to do
So
that?
what I would suggest doing, which is what I would do if it was a Mac App Store application, is I would just create another entry for that application and then just alter the display name that's going to be showing up here in the Mac apps. So I would make it, as an example, maybe I have a policy just for self-service, or in your case, maybe you have one just for the C-suite. So what I would do is I would just come in here. I already have Teams. I'm going to come in again, add another entry for Teams, but I could say C-suite.
Okay, I think
And then have that specific scope just for the C-suite.
I think I misunderstood because what I deduced from what you're saying was that when you change the scoping, it's to increase the ability to multi-scope per entry, but it sounds more like it's just in increasing the ability of you to scope to specific objects. Is that
Correct,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Oh, no worries. We got someone in the back.
Kind of a follow-up question about the patch management. The custom things that you were showing in the app management, as far as setting notifications and deferrals, is that going to come to patch management? Are those menus going to look the same, or is patch management not going to get those same kind of menu items?
I would say that the ultimate goal, and from discussing with other customers, is they want those two to be married. So again, discussing what I could discuss, I would say with this particular use case here now, where we have some applications that are having automated packaging and some that are not, ultimately, we would want as many applications to be in the app catalog. So I think it's just a matter of time. Like I said, we're at 129 applications and we started with under 10. So I think it's something that it's ultimately going to be married together. It would make sense, you know, from a admin perspective to have them married together. So, and again, I encourage all of you to submit some feature requests for some of the stuff that we're talking about. So, thank you.
Thank you. Just a follow-up question. Does that mean on-prem patch management wouldn't work anymore when these get married?
Yeah, so that opens up a whole other can of worms there. There is no news of on-prem Jamf Pro going away. You know, a majority of our customers are cloud hosted, but we have customers who absolutely need to remain on-prem. So patch management, patch reporting will always be there. It's just some of these new automations like the app catalog and the app installers that unfortunately will not, I could absolutely say will not be available, that they're cloud first.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's cloud first, but you're saying they'll never be on-prem?
Correct, yeah. The big thing is the cloud distribution points. So all these packages are hosted in AWS, they're all hosted in the cloud. So due to that limitation of them being in the cloud, there really wouldn't be a way of having that connection without a lot of work involved for on-prem customers. Cool. You look like you have a question? No? Oh, okay. Cool.
I do. Is there
Sure.
a way, is there a way to will uninstall be in the future? Like, let's say a patch breaks, like the app on Ford machine.
Yes.
Is there a way to push a management command to uninstall that? Will that be in the future? Patch, but even the app.
App remove, so the question was if for some reason a new version of a piece of software was released, what would happen if we needed to roll things back? Is there going to be like an uninstall instead of app installs, app uninstall? The answer to that is no. I know you mentioned like if something would break, any other particular use cases for that other than just rolling things back?
No, that was just it.
Okay.
Especially with the Adobe, some of the techs have asked me, well, uninstall it. And I'm like, well, that's harder to do than realize because I can't push a management command to remove the app.
Yes.
So Creative Cloud pushes an uninstall on the local machine. So you can uninstall it that way, and it's got a GUI and everything. The problem is it takes a while for that to report back to the JSS.
Sure.
The machine, so if you try to push it again, it'll say, oh, it's already installed. That's
Gotcha.
a big problem.
Sure.
So that's why I asked.
No, appreciate it, Dave. And you know, I think something that's, you know, in the pipeline for anybody who watched the JNUC keynote last year, you know, we announced the new VIP remote support tool that's going to be coming very soon in a future release of Jamf Pro. You know, ultimately, I think that will help when you do have those kind of one-off situations where you want to very quickly do something and have the power to do it. But again, that's going to be a new tool, hopefully coming here by the end of the summer. Awesome. Are there any remaining questions out there? Just want to make sure everybody is answered. Great. Great. Well, I appreciate everybody attending. Appreciate you all being customers as well. I'll be around if anybody wants to talk. We also have the Jamf booth over by the mess hall. Again, I'm Adam from Jamf. Derrick, D-E-R-R-I-C-K @jamf.com if you ever need to reach me. And thank you so much for attending my session.